Hey everybody, it's Alex Miller at Cadmion here. Today I'm going to talking about AI, and I think the surprisingly profound, sort of facetious and dumb question is, what is AI exactly? I think talking about AI is actually very relevant, and we don't talk about it enough. And then especially if you're somebody who's in a position of leadership. You're a business leader, you're an executive, you're an entrepreneur. The what is AI question, and just in general, how to talk about AI, could come up as really important. AI is something, it's really a lot of things. Different technologies blurring back down into data science or machine learning or whatever. People have different thoughts about it, and they have different preconceptions about when you should get to call something AI. And then this word AI, whatever it refers to, is in the center of so much hype you really can't and shouldn't ignore it. But then with that, there's a lot of peril involved in how you talk about it. So I've been blessed with lots of conversation lately, all sorts of people trying to have these conversations. You're trying to get investment. You're trying to get budget for a project. You're working on a project and it's off the rails and you're trying to talk to somebody about it. You're trying to hype up a project. You're trying to hype down a project. AI coming into being in some practical technological sense intimately passes through all these things. They're pretty challenging conversations at times. And in the end, I think it all comes down to what is AI. And a bit of my thesis here, I'm not really going to say what is AI. I'm going to say a lot of the time you need to let that go and you need to respect what other people think AI is and why. And maybe even in certain types of situation I'll describe in a minute, you have to say slightly different things to different people about what is and isn't AI implicitly. So let me get started. One of the big axes around AI is what is fancy enough to call AI. It tends to be true and has been true for a really long time that the engineering crowd, which is an important constituency if you're trying to do these kinds of things, really chafes against calling something AI that isn't technically sophisticated enough. If you're talking to the venture capital crowd who's looking to invest in a startup, they're often looking for an exciting new modable technology. So, for different motivations, they are very often acutely interested in AI being fancy enough, in a sense, technologically sophisticated enough. At the same time, a whole lot of conversation about AI you can put in the broader history of automation, especially reliably if you're trying to sell an AI tool to someone who's just trying to clean up their P&L, run a business, run a division of a large corporation. This automation angle is really how they think about it. If you can do a bunch of work with a machine for cheap, reliably, I really don't care that it's a bunch of if else statements that you could have come up with in 1985. I just want it to work and be cheap and automatic. I think it's pretty interesting, and I'll take care not to belabor it too much here. In any kind of human inquiry, there's a sort of spectrum. There's philosophy, there's science, there's engineering. The success of AI has really been on the engineering end of this spectrum, which is part of why we've had a lot of trouble figuring out how we want to use the word. And in particular, these conversations about I think you really often need to confront that we don't really know how our own cognition works. So I saw on LinkedIn yesterday, is AI really intelligent like humans, or is it just a bunch of math? Well, how are humans intelligent? How does your mind work? These are not questions with answers on which there is universal agreement. And then I just would kind of point out, like, AI kind of becomes a marketing term. I'm not even saying the whole word anymore. We've been watching Terminator movies for decades. We have a lot of emotion about it. And in a sense, we've been marketing this technology to ourselves for decades, but not in any particular direction. There's not really anyone in a position of authority to say what it should be. To return to practical conversation, of course, when you go to actually build something, it's not a big deal whether you call it AI or not. It doesn't know. A rose by any other name would smell as sweet. There's an earlier phase of the game where you're trying to align the stakeholders approximately to get to the point where you're handling all the details of building some specific thing. And in this part of the process, how you use these phrases is really important. They're actually quite powerful. They're the loci of a lot of emotion, and they thus have a lot of power to sway how people look at what you want to do, positively or negatively. And getting out there and talking to people have a whole lot of different ideas about what AI is. And it's something that is worth being aware of and handling carefully.